You've been lied to for years. The bread you trust, the one you switched to because your doctor told you, the one labeled healthy, whole grain, diabetic friendly, may be just as dangerous as candy. Let that sink in. Whole wheat equals safe for diabetes? Completely wrong. A meta-analysis of 13 clinical studies found something most people never hear. The glycemic index of whole wheat bread and white bread is nearly identical, around 71. That puts both of them in the high glycemic category, the same category as a candy bar. So what does that really mean for you? It means the bread you eat every morning, believing you're protecting your blood sugar, could be triggering the exact spikes you're trying to avoid. And if you're over 50, over 60, when your insulin sensitivity is already declining year after year, this isn't just a small mistake. This is damage. Silent, invisible, accumulating. Because every single slice you eat can send a rapid surge of glucose into your bloodstream, thickening your blood, stressing your pancreas, and slowly damaging your blood vessels from the inside out. You won't feel it. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But it's happening. Every breakfast, every sandwich, every healthy choice. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at your bread? Not the label, but what it does inside your body. Because what you're about to learn is something the food industry doesn't want you to understand. Before we go any further, I want you to do something right now. Type in the comments, "I deserve the truth." Because you do. And if you believe people should know what's really happening to their bodies, not what marketing tells them, hit like, subscribe, and help break the silence this industry depends on. Because what I'm about to show you next will completely change the way you look at bread forever. Now, no more delays. Let's start at number 7, the one sitting in your kitchen right now, quietly pushing your blood sugar higher every single morning. #7, honey wheat bread, the most dangerous lie on the shelf. This is where it begins. This is where most people get it wrong. You see the word wheat. You see the word honey. And your brain tells you, this must be healthier. It's not. In fact, this might be one of the most misleading foods in the entire grocery store. Let me explain why. Most commercial honey wheat breads are built on a foundation of enriched wheat flour, not whole grain. That means the grain has already been stripped, processed, and reduced to a fast-digesting powder. Then, a few synthetic vitamins are added back in, just enough to legally call it enriched. But your body doesn't care about labels. It cares about how fast that starch hits your bloodstream. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This type of bread has a glycemic index between 73 and 75, almost identical to white bread. Let that sink in. The very bread marketed as better for you is metabolically no different than the one you were told to avoid. And the honey? That's not the main problem. That's just the distraction. Because behind that natural image, many of these breads also contain high fructose corn syrup and refined sugars that accelerate the spike even further. So what does that mean for you? It means every slice creates a rapid glucose surge, forcing your pancreas to respond aggressively. And if you're over 60 when insulin sensitivity is already declining, that spike doesn't come back down easily. It lingers. It damages. Silently. I once spoke to a 6-7-year-old man, let's call him Robert. He switched from white bread to honey wheat 10 years ago after his doctor warned him about pre-diabetes. He thought he was doing everything right, but his fasting glucose kept climbing. When we looked closer, the culprit wasn't obvious junk food. It was this bread, every morning, every sandwich. Here's what you need to do starting today. Flip the package over. Look at the first ingredient. If it says enriched wheat flour or just wheat flour without the word times whole times, put it back. Because this isn't health food. It's a blood sugar spike wearing a costume. All right, now let's move to number 6. And this one is going to sting because it's probably the bread your doctor told you to eat. #6, commercial whole wheat bread, the trusted mistake. It sounds healthy. It looks healthy. And for years, you've been told that times is times healthy. Whole wheat bread. It has fiber. It's brown. It says 100% whole grain right on the label. So it must be protecting your blood sugar, right? Not exactly. Here's the benefit people believe. Whole wheat bread contains more fiber than white bread, which should times slow digestion and reduce blood sugar spikes. That's the theory. But the reality is very different. Because once that wheat enters a modern factory, it's not left intact. It's run through high-speed roller mills and ground into an ultra-fine powder, whole wheat flour. And this changes everything. From a scientific standpoint, the particle size becomes so small that your digestive enzymes can break it down almost instantly. The fiber is still there times chemically, but physically, it no longer acts as a barrier. So what happens inside your body? That starch is rapidly converted into glucose just like white bread. In fact, studies consistently show that commercial whole wheat bread has a glycemic index around 73 to 75, nearly identical to refined white bread. Same spike. Same insulin demand. Same long-term damage. Now, let me make this real. Margaret, 72 years old, switched to whole wheat bread after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Every morning, she had 2 slices of toast, believing she was making the safe choice. Her diet was clean. No soda. No desserts. And yet, her blood sugar reading stayed stubbornly high. The problem wasn't obvious until someone looked at the bread. Because what she was eating wasn't truly slow-digesting whole grain. It was finely milled flour, behaving almost exactly like white bread inside her body. And that's the silent danger. It doesn't spike your glucose in a dramatic, noticeable way. It does it quietly, repeatedly, every single day. So here's the warning you won't hear on the label. This is not a protective health food. This is a high glycemic product disguised as a smart choice. And if you're relying on it to control your blood sugar, it may be doing the exact opposite. Now, let's keep moving, because the next one is even more deceptive. Let's go to number 5. Hash 5, multigrain bread. The illusion of more is better. This is where the marketing gets smarter and more dangerous. Because multigrain sounds powerful. Multiple grains, more nutrients, more variety. It feels like an upgrade, like you're giving your body times more of everything it needs. But here's the truth no one tells you. Multigrain does not mean whole grain. It simply means the bread contains more than one type of grain. That's it. Those grains can still be fully refined, stripped down, and processed into fast-digesting flour. So while the label suggests abundance, your body experiences overload. From a scientific perspective, this creates a problem. Instead of one source of rapidly digestible starch, you now have multiple refined starches hitting your bloodstream at the same time. Wheat, corn, rice, all broken down quickly, all converted into glucose, all entering your blood almost simultaneously. The result? A glycemic index around 65 to 70 in many commercial multigrain breads. That's still in the moderate to high range, especially dangerous if your insulin sensitivity is already declining. Now let me show you how this plays out in real life. David, 68, switched from white bread to multigrain after a routine checkup. His doctor mentioned more fiber, more grains, so he picked the one with seeds on the package and a dark brown color. Every morning toast. Every afternoon sandwich. He felt confident, in control. But his post-meal glucose readings told a different story. Spikes. Not extreme, but consistent. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because repeated moderate spikes, day after day, slowly wear down your insulin response, quietly, progressively, until one day, your numbers don't come back down. Here's the critical distinction. If a multigrain bread is made from 100% whole, coarsely ground grains, it can actually be beneficial. Some versions drop as low as a GI of 40-45. But those are rare. So here's your move. Don't trust the word multigrain. Read every ingredient. If even one grain is listed without the word whole in front of it, the metabolic advantage is gone. Because this isn't about quantity, it's about structure. And in most cases, multigrain bread isn't better. It's just more refined carbs in disguise. Now, stay with me, because this next one looks harmless, but it's quietly working against you. Let's go to number 4. Hash 4. Whole wheat pita bread, thin but faster than you think. At first glance, this seems like a smarter choice. It's thinner. It feels lighter. Smaller portions, less bread, less impact. That's what most people believe. And logically, it makes sense. But your metabolism doesn't work on logic. It works on structure and speed. Here's the perceived benefit. Pita bread is often made from whole wheat and served in smaller portions, which should reduce the blood sugar response. But here's what actually happens. To achieve that soft, flexible, thin texture, most commercial pita breads are made using extremely finely milled flour. We're talking about particles so small that your digestive enzymes don't have to work at all. They just access everything instantly. From a scientific standpoint, this increases the surface area exposure of starch to enzymes. The more exposed the starch, the faster it breaks down into glucose. And that means one thing: a faster spike. Most whole wheat pita breads have a glycemic index in the mid to high 60s. Not the worst, but far from safe. And here's the part almost nobody talks about: speed of eating. Think about how you eat pita. You tear a piece, dip it, swallow. No resistance. No chewing effort. It goes down fast. And when food hits your stomach quickly, glucose hits your bloodstream quickly. Your pancreas is forced to react immediately. Now imagine this happening in someone over 60, where insulin response is already slower and less efficient. That spike doesn't just rise faster. It stays elevated longer. Let me show you how this plays out. Linda, 70, replaced sandwich bread with pita because she thought it was lighter. She would eat it with vegetables or dip it into hummus, sometimes skipping protein altogether. Her meals looked healthy. But her glucose monitor told a different story. Sharp rises after eating, slow drops afterward. The issue wasn't just the bread. It was the combination of fast digestion and poor pairing. So here's your warning. Pita bread is not dangerous on its own. But eaten alone, or with mostly carbs, it becomes a fast delivery system for glucose. Here's what you should do instead. Never eat pita by itself. Always pair it with protein and healthy fats, like eggs, chicken, olive oil, or hummus. Because this isn't just about what you eat. It's about how fast it hits your blood. And pita bread? It moves faster than you think. Now, this is where things start to shift. For the first time on this list, we're moving away from damage and into protection. Let's go to number 3. Hash 3. Sprouted grain bread, where the biology starts. Working times, 4 times. This one sounds different. It feels different. Sprouted grain bread. You've probably seen it in the freezer section. Words like natural, organic, ancient, grains. But forget the marketing for a second, because the real benefit has nothing to do with buzzwords. It comes from a biological process that changes the grain itself. Here's the core advantage. Sprouted grain bread is made from whole grains that have begun to germinate, meaning the seed has started to grow. And that changes everything. During sprouting, natural enzymes inside the grain activate. They begin breaking down stored starches and transforming them into simpler compounds the plant would normally use for energy. But here's the key. This process also increases resistant starch, a type of carbohydrate your body cannot fully digest. And that slows everything down. From a scientific standpoint, sprouted grain bread has a glycemic index between 36 and 50, depending on the brand. Compare that to 70 plus in most commercial breads. That's not a small improvement. That's a completely different metabolic response. Glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually. Insulin demand stays lower. Your system stays stable. Now, let me show you why this matters. James, 65, had been struggling with borderline diabetes for years. He wasn't eating junk food. He had already cut out white bread and switched to healthier options, but his numbers weren't improving. Then he made one simple change. He replaced his regular bread with sprouted grain bread, nothing else. Within a week, his post-meal glucose spikes were noticeably lower. Not gone, but controlled. And that's the difference this bread can make. But here's the warning, because this is where people get fooled again. Not all sprouted grain breads are truly sprouted. Some brands mix in refined flour. Some add sugars or syrups. And the moment that happens, the benefit drops. So here's what you need to do. Look at the ingredient list. The first word should be sprouted. Sprouted wheat, sprouted barley, sprouted lentils. If you see flour near the top, put it back. Because real sprouted bread isn't just another option. It's one of the first breads on this list that actually works with your metabolism instead of against it. Now, we're entering territory that most people have never even considered. And this one flies completely under the radar. Let's go to number 2. Hash 2, traditional pumpernickel bread, the hidden metabolic weapon. This is not the bread you grew up with. It's not soft. It's not fluffy. And it definitely doesn't taste like what most people expect, which is exactly why it gets ignored. But that might be a mistake. Because the real benefit of traditional pumpernickel bread has nothing to do with taste. It has everything to do with how your body processes it. Let's start with what makes it different. Authentic pumpernickel, true European style, is made from coarsely cracked rye grains, not finely milled flour. That means the grain structure stays largely intact, and that alone changes digestion. Because when grains remain in larger particles, your digestive enzymes can't immediately break them down. They have to work slowly, layer by layer. From a scientific standpoint, this significantly reduces the speed at which glucose enters your bloodstream. But that's only half the story. The second factor is the baking process. Traditional pumpernickel is baked at low temperatures for 16 to 24 hours. During this time, a portion of the starch transforms into something called resistant starch, a form your small intestine cannot digest. Instead of turning into glucose, it passes into your large intestine and feeds your gut bacteria. So instead of spiking your blood sugar, it supports your microbiome. Now look at the numbers. True pumpernickel bread has a glycemic index between 41 and 46. Lower than most fruits. Far lower than any standard bread. That means slower glucose release, lower insulin demand, less stress on your pancreas. Now let me show you what this looks like in real life. Walter, 71, struggled with post-meal fatigue for years. Every time he ate bread, he felt sluggish within an hour. He assumed it was just aging. Then he switched almost reluctantly to a dense, dark pumpernickel from a European bakery. Within days, something changed. No crash. No heavy fatigue. More stable energy after meals. The difference wasn't dramatic, but it was consistent. And that consistency is what protects you over time. But here's the critical warning. Most pumpernickel breads in supermarkets are fake. They're often just refined rye bread colored with molasses or caramel. Same look. Completely different effect. So here's what you need to do. Look for coarse texture, dense structure, minimal ingredients. Because real pumpernickel isn't just another bread. It's one of the few that can actively reduce the metabolic stress of eating carbs. And almost no one is talking about it. Now, this is it. The one almost nobody truly understands. The one that doesn't just times avoid damage, but may actually improve how your body handles sugar. Let's go to number 1. Hasson, real sourdough bread, the one that changes the game. This is where everything shifts. Because sourdough isn't just bread. It's a completely different biological system. Now, most people think sourdough is healthier because of the taste, the tangy flavor. That's not the reason. That's just the surface. The real benefit comes from something much deeper. Fermentation. True sourdough is made using a natural starter wild yeast and bacteria that ferments the dough slowly over 12 to 24 hours. And during that time, something powerful happens. The bacteria produce organic acids, mainly lactic acid and acetic acid. These acids change how your body processes the bread. From a scientific standpoint, they slow down gastric emptying, which means food leaves your stomach more slowly. And that one change creates a chain reaction. Glucose enters your bloodstream gradually. Your blood sugar rises more slowly. Your pancreas doesn't need to release large amounts of insulin at once. The result? A significantly lower glycemic response. Real sourdough bread typically has a glycemic index between 45 and 55, sometimes even lower, depending on how it's made. Compare that to 70 plus in standard breads. But here's what makes this even more powerful, especially if you're over 60. It's not just about blood sugar. It's about insulin. Studies show that sourdough doesn't just reduce glucose spikes, it actually reduces the amount of insulin your body needs to process the same carbohydrates. That means less strain on your pancreas, less long-term damage, slower progression toward insulin resistance. Let me make this real. George, 69, had been dealing with rising fasting glucose for years. He had already cleaned up. His diet switched to whole wheat, cut sugar, but his numbers weren't improving. Then he made one change. He switched to real, long-fermented sourdough. Within 2 weeks, his post-meal readings dropped. Not dramatically, but consistently. And that consistency is everything. Because stable blood sugar isn't about perfection. It's about reducing stress on your system, meal after meal. But here's the warning, and this is critical. Most sourdough on the market is fake. It's just white bread with vinegar or flavoring added to mimic that sour taste. No real fermentation. No real benefit. So here's what you do. Look at the ingredient list. It should be simple. Flour, water, salt, starter. No yeast. No additives. Because real sourdough isn't just the best bread on this list. It's the closest thing to a bread that actually works with your metabolism and not against it. The healthy bread trap that spikes you twice as hard. This is where most people lose control without realizing it. Bread with fruit juice. Bread with jam in the morning. Margarine on toast. Bread at night. Sounds normal, right? It's not. This combination hits your body like a double attack. Fast carbs plus liquid sugar, your glucose spikes twice as high. Sweet breakfast first, your pancreas goes into shock. Margarine adds silent inflammation, making insulin resistance worse over time. And eating bread at night? That's the real damage. Your body can't process it while you sleep. Stop this now. One habit change could protect your blood sugar tonight. Conclusion: this changes everything starting today. Let me stop you right here before you walk into your kitchen and make the same mistake again tonight. Because now you know the truth, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't about giving up bread. It never was. It's about understanding what's really happening inside your body, beyond the label, beyond the marketing, beyond what you were told to trust. So here's your action plan. Simple, direct, no excuses. Step 1. Go to your kitchen. Right now. Pick up the bread you're currently eating. Turn it over. Read the first ingredient. If it says enriched wheat flour or just wheat flour without the word whole, you're eating white bread in disguise. Step 2. Stop trusting the front label. Look at the bread itself. Is it smooth, soft, uniform, like a sponge? Or can you actually see grains, seeds, rough texture? Because your body doesn't care what the package says. It responds to structure. Step 3. Replace it strategically. Your priority list is simple. Real sourdough comes first. Sprouted grain comes next. True pumpernickel is your backup. That's it. One decision at the grocery store can change your blood sugar for the next 72 hours. And here's what I need you to understand. You don't need to quit bread. You don't need to fear food. You just need to stop trusting an industry that profits from confusion. Because the system isn't built to keep you healthy. It's built to keep you buying. But now you're different. Now you know what to look for. Now you're in control. So don't keep this to yourself. Drop a comment right now. Which bread shocked you the most? Was it the healthy whole wheat that isn't healthy at all? Or the sourdough that actually protects your metabolism? I read every comment, and your answer might wake someone else up too.